Hello and welcome back. You know, I actually own 6 pairs of Knicks boots. And in this video, I'm gonna rank them from my favorite to my least favorite, because even my least favorite is still really good. Welcome to the channel, I'm Murawski. This is the channel that helps you own less and own better. Now, I actually got called out by a commenter not too long ago, and he was like, well, how many pairs of boots do you own? What do you mean own less? Now, the thing is like, I'm not just showing off my collection in some weird fetish or anything like that. I get these things. First of all, I bought my first pair of Knicks, and I would have stopped there, to be honest with you. But making these videos necessitates getting new product. Otherwise, the channel just ends. All right, number 6. It's actually my collaboration, the first collaboration I did with them. This is the Peanut Bison Traveler. The idea when we made this boot was to make a soft, flexible boot, relatively speaking in Knicks terms, that would be really good for when you didn't want to wear your full-on hardcore work boots. Or there's a lot of guys who I work with who are a little bit older and they don't want to wear these these tanks, right? They don't want to wear these. They want something that's a little softer. That's what these were supposed to be for. And to be honest with you, they work great in that regard. These are the only Knicks that I've actually thrown on and worn on vacation. You know, I went up to New Hampshire and I wore these the whole time. That being said, I don't really wear them all that much compared to the others. It's odd because I can't exactly tell you why. The sole is really, really soft. The bison leather, it doesn't require any break-in. I like the fact that it has like natural variation. It's that beautiful kind of orangey brown color. But there's just something about them where I don't reach for them every time I need to throw on a pair of boots. And sometimes I find myself having to go, hey, you know what? You haven't worn those in a while. I can't tell you why. I just, these are my least favorite of the bunch. Still great, but just my least favorite. Number 5 is right here. Now this is the Tanker Pro. Did a video on these. This is actually in their 1964 rough out leather. This was the first the first boot that they did in their rough out leather. And I mean, I think it looks dynamite. And so you can tell I've worn these quite a bit. These actually have the composite toe because I do use them for work. And in electrical, we can't have steel toes. I really don't like steel toes anyway. They tend to freeze your toes off, you know, practically. So even when I don't need steel toes, or when I can opt for a composite toe, that's what I'll do. The reason that this didn't rank higher is that I already have a work boot that does all that this thing does that I really like and that's really, really broken in and incredibly comfortable. These, I would say, are definitely more flexible. These are based on the Builder Pro chassis, right? It's basically a Builder Pro without laces. So I love the Builder Pro. These are very, very much like it. They're just a little bit more flexible since there's not all that lacing up front. Now, you do have straps and stuff like that, but it's nowhere near the same as having all those laces going across the top of your foot. These go on quicker, but you do feel a little bit looser inside of them, so a lot of times I find myself just lacing up my old 10-inch Builder Pros and going to work. These, again, are great. But I think it's pretty, making this list was no easy task because I really do like all of them. But these right here, what I usually will do is these will be kind of a backup to my normal Builder Pros. So what I'll try to do is I'll actually swap those out with these a couple times a week just so that I'm not always wearing the same boots because you want to let them dry out and all that stuff. Or if there's a morning where I'm just not feeling particularly up to, lacing up a 10-inch boot or whatever and I want to pop these on, usually a Monday or a Friday, that's what I'll do. So in 5th place, the Tanker Pro. Number 4 is the Urban Logger. Now these are actually in cinnamon waxed flesh, and you may be wondering because if you saw my original video on these, I called them the perfect boot. So why wouldn't the perfect boot be number 1, right? The big drawback of these is that heel and the weight that's on your feet. It is quite a bit. I mean, when you hold these things up, you know you got a boot in your hand. So if you're used to work boots, then this is not going to be a surprise. When I hold this and I hold this, this one's heavier. But the problem comes in most of the time on the weekend is when I'll wear these. I don't typically wear these to work just because when you're walking on ballast stone alongside of the railroad, you can tend to roll an ankle. So I like to have a shorter heel than this one. This is a pretty tall heel. So I like to have a shorter heel when I'm actually on the job. These are good for everything else though. And all that weight, after a week of wearing work boots, sometimes I just want something that's a little bit easier to ride with. And, so that's the reason they don't rank higher. But that being said, if I don't know what I'm gonna get into during the day, then I'll wear these. When I went on a trip and to Detroit, and I was out fishing, and we were just doing all kinds of different things, and I really didn't know what we were going to be doing, I wore these because I was like, okay, well, the arch support is incredible. The traction is there for days. They're tough. They actually kind of look like, not dressed up, but they don't look like a full-on work boot because they don't have the steel toe. They're great for that kind of thing. If I don't know what I'm going to be getting into during the day, these are on my feet. But it's just that weight that holds me back from wearing them basically all the time. Number 3 is the Americana. So I did a video on these basically comparing them to the Iron Ranger, in which they have a lot of like similar design details. I think these are better than the Iron Ranger, just from my perspective as far as wearing them. They're certainly more durable. A lot of people say they don't have the same, they don't have the exact same look. The Iron Ranger does look a little bit different. These, I think, look a little less clown shoe-ish, but I prefer these. Now, my one drawback with these, because these, compared to all the rest that I've shown you so far, are probably the least work boot of the bunch, mostly because of that sole, and that's the drawback. The only reason that I don't wear these more, and I have worn them plenty, is that this sole is sort of thin. I like a little bit more cushion between me and the floor. Now, look, part of that might just be being 41 now and, being kind of a pansy. I don't know, but you could definitely feel the ground through these just because of the thinner sole. I mean, it's basically your insole, then that outsole, no real lugs or anything. So when you're standing, especially on concrete, you could definitely feel it on your foot. But that being said, these are great for everything else. They're a little bit lighter than the Urban Logger, so a lot of times I'll wear these instead. Now, for me, where these shine is that they look as good as they're built. So they're built solid like everything that NYX makes, but they're also just a little bit more user-friendly when you throw them on with a pair of jeans. They're not as bulky. It doesn't look like you're wearing your work boots with, your casual attire or whatever. So a lot of times these are great for pretty much everything but hardcore work. I don't really wear these to work just because of the lack of traction. I dig the lower heel and stuff, but I like more lugs between me and the ground, or a soft sole like this if I'm walking on concrete. These though, they mostly are just a home boot or casual boot, whatever. They really don't live on the job site. Now, number 2 is the second collaboration that I did with NYX, and that was the Heritage Tanker. We took the Tanker Pro idea of the straps and applied it to a sleeker boot, put it on some special stuff, and made a boot that I have been wearing. Anytime that I'm wearing casual boots, those are what I'm wearing. All of these other ones took a back seat, to the Heritage Tanker. It's easy to get on, it's flexible. The leather, when it kind of scrapes away, will reveal the lighter color underneath, so it is somewhat T-core. Has those great cat's paw heels, the built-right soles, and the fact that I had input and they were kind of, a collaboration between the two of us, it makes them some of my favorites. Plus, they can dress up pretty easily. When you wear them, they almost just look like an alternative to an engineer boot. And I don't wear my engineered boots that much because the John Lofgrens that I have, they're really hard to get on. Matter of fact, I think I'm gonna be selling those things pretty soon. I don't wanna spend half an hour getting into my boots in the beginning of the day. Those things go on, lightning fast. I go over, I step into them, I can buckle that thing up, and boom, I'm out the door. So it's great for when you gotta go out there and yell at the kids to get off your lawn, or whatever it is, go out and get the mail. You don't have to sit there and put on a full boot. There's 2 straps and then you're finished. So I gotta say that those things they've been really taking up almost all of my time as far as duration in my casual use. They're just awesome. Number 1 is the boot that started it all, and that's the Builder Pros. The Builder Pros, let me tell you about how I started even looking at these boots and sort of how I started getting into this stuff on this channel. I'm sitting in my, I think it was actually in the work van at lunchtime. And I'm going, my boots are killing me. I gotta figure out what are the best boots out there. So I'm online, right, searching around. There wasn't much out there, but then I came across Wrangler Star's video on whites versus NYX, and there wasn't a whole lot of information out there. Based on that video, I started looking around a little bit more. I settled on NYX because they were a smaller company. I figured a little bit more customer service. I ordered the Builder Pro. I think it took 2 months to come in. I know that their backlog now is much longer than that. At that point, it was 2 months. They sent me the try-on boot. I did the fitting, the whole thing. When I got my Builder Pros, the first week was murder. It really was. I remember specifically where I was working because I was in so much pain. And I would change them out at lunch. And then the next day was a little bit easier. Next day was a little bit easier. At the end of about a month, they fit perfectly. And it was the first time that I felt resilient at the end of my shift. I didn't feel like my feet went flat, like my arches were about to collapse, like I'd been standing on concrete all day or something. I felt good. And it was amazing to feel, especially for spending so many years in the field and having worn everything from hiking boots to Keens to Herman Survivors to Carhartt to Timberland Pros. You name it, I probably have worn them. When I got these, it was a revelation. It was so great to feel spring in your step at the end of your day. And it was just something I'll never forget. Those boots have a special place in my heart, and they're due for a resole. I've basically worn through them. They're in the brown rough out with the honey Vibram sole, and to me, that's just like the perfect work boot combination. They're just awesome. I love them. I've worn them in 3 states, working night shift, working in the summer, working in the winter time, on the side of the railroad, in buildings, all over the place, and they've never once failed me. So I gotta tell you, you just can't replace them. I don't think anything could ever knock those things off my top favorite work boot. They're just, in my opinion, peerless. Fantastic boots. So that's the ranking of my boots from number 6 to number 1. I hope it was enjoyable for you. It's kind of neat to see these things all lined up and the way they sort of fall into place. Now, these were all still, they're all built to my foot, so I had these all made to that same foot measurement, so they all fit like a glove. And if I was going to sell them, I'd have to find somebody with my exact same foot size, which is why they're probably just going to stick around forever. So I'm not complaining. Now, if you'd like to see more videos on boots like this, I made you a whole playlist right here. You can go ahead and check that out. In there is a review on all of these different boots that I've done here. All of these boots I have done a review on in depth, a little bit more granular if that's what you want to see. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you next time.